I'd like to convene the Ways and Means Committee, and we'll be taking up House File 1777 by Representative Lenczewski. Representative Lenczewski, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I guess I would take your counsel on is the motion to the floor. I'd like to move House File 1777 as amended to the floor. Is that correct?
Okay, that's right. That's close enough. Okay, and if you want to, that motion is before us, so the bill is before us. If you'd like to present the bill,
Mr. Mayor, I was at a city council meeting. I'm an old city council member, Mr. Chair. If I may, can I add the A11 first to get it in order? I'd like it.
okay.
So I would move the A11 if that's all right. It's technical, and it reduces slightly the administrative cost that was added in tax committee that you and I and Representative Davids talked about, that there might be an adjustment. It's an adjustment downward.
Okay, and that puts the bill in the order that you'd like to present it. So the motion that we adopt the A11 amendment is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Representative Lenczewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'll just very quickly, I think most of us are fairly familiar with the bill, just talk about House File 1777 as amended just a little bit. I do want to first thank Representative Davids and all the members of the Tax Committee who've been working very hard last week to get this bill before us here now. And so for the public, I'll just briefly mention federal conformity and the repeal of 3 business-to-business taxes that were put into law last year is what this bill is about. It's a little over $500 million in middle-class tax cuts. So what's really going on here, there's two big pieces in the bill, and they have a lot of detail within them, but the way to think about it is when the Congress passes tax relief for Americans, states conform or don't conform to pass on those tax benefits to their citizens and to make the tax system less complicated for filers. And so what we're trying to do in this bill is conform to the majority of items for the current filing tax year we're in right now, 2013, and that's why we're trying to work to get this done as quickly as possible. Not every single provision, but the overwhelming majority. And then also provide those tax relief items going forward on a permanent basis, with a few exceptions where Congress has not allowed that tax benefit going forward. So I'll just quickly mention a few of them in what's in the bill. There is $111 million for middle-income married filers in tax relief. 650,000 Minnesota families will receive an average tax cut of $115. And I would note the vast majority of families that claim the standard deduction make less than $75,000. There's $36 million of tax relief for low-income working families. This boosts the working family credit to match the federal earned income tax credit. More than 50,000 working families will see an average tax cut of $300. $26.4 million of tax cuts for students and parents paying for college and students paying off loans. These are different education-related provisions including the qualified tuition and related expenses. There's $7.2 million for homeowners who either refinanced, foreclosed, or had a short sale, and I know a lot of members have heard about that from folks who were surprised to learn that because Minnesota didn't conform last year after people went through foreclosure and thought they had been forgiven the debt, that in fact they found out they were supposed to pay taxes on that, and so we're correcting that now. Additionally, there's $3.9 million in tax cuts for new homeowners. This is conforming on the mortgage insurance premium deduction. $1.8 million in tax cuts for Minnesota families with dependents. 26,000 families with household incomes below $38,570 will see an $80 tax cut. There's $400,000 in tax cuts for folks who are adopting children. These are employer-provided adoption assistance exclusion that we're conforming to. $1.1 million in tax cuts for 60,000 teachers. These are classroom expense deductions for educators. $6.7 million in tax cuts for businesses to make tax filing simpler, and $4 million in tax cuts to incentivize charitable contributions. Those are kind of the highlights on the federal conformity piece. And then the B2B taxes we're familiar. 2 of them are underway. That's the equipment tax at the business-to-business level. A lot of people call it the farm equipment repair tax, but it's not just farm equipment, it's all the equipment repair. And so we would end that tax and and have refunds for those folks. Then there's the warehouse tax, which has not started. It's supposed to go into effect on April 1st, and we're trying to repeal that so that doesn't happen. And the other one is the telecom. And the tax committee worked together in a nice fashion to think through how we might, rather than retroactively, as we end the tax, do refunds. Instead, we use those resources to build out the networks. I think we're going to, continue to have ongoing conversations that will really take place in Chair Johnson's committee about how that's done, but I think it's a fair characterization to say that it's more likely that that money will go more outstate than metro, and I think we as a committee, can't speak for everyone, but I think we thought that was fair, given that most folks in the metro have a pretty good telecom system, and it's really, we're missing coverage for a lot of people in outstate Minnesota, so we'd be looking to represent Johnson's committee and those members to figure out how those resources would be used. So I think that that covers it, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, any discussion? Well, seeing none then, Representative Lenczewski renews her motion that House File 1777 as amended be placed on the general register. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. and
Well,
committee.
thank you. And with that, remember, tomorrow we meet at 11:40 in this room, and we'll be taking up budget resolution at 11:40. Meeting adjourned.